Welcome to this edition of KIFF's Filmmakers Around the Globe. One of the great things about this festival is we are very lucky to speak to filmmakers and creatives on an international basis. Today we speak to Ukrainian filmmaker Masha Novikova, a filmmaker who moved to Germany and studied fine arts before graduating with an MA in filmmaking at London Film School.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Filmmakers Around the Globe. Today I'm going to be talking to Masha Novikova, who's a Ukrainian filmmaker currently living in Germany. Masha, thank you for coming on and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, David.
Can we just start by talking about what first inspired you to be a filmmaker?
I studied fine art in Germany and I tried different arts of drawing and paintings, and then my teacher told me, Masha, you should maybe try filming. Just take your own camera and start filming. Maybe it's something where you will discover more for yourself. And I just did, I just listened to my teacher. I tried that, and that's all developed to the video art and and then later to film.
So where did you go on to study at a film school after that?
I worked in a film industry here in Germany as an assistant to a production designer. So I more or less I wanted to understand what it is, filmmaking. I wanted to work in the industry, see how it works. So I worked at many student projects and also at a few bigger films and one historical feature film. Always in the art department, but at some point I just maybe the ambitions, the desire to make an own thing, tell own stories, brought me to the London Film School, where when I had an opportunity to try all that and also discover different aspects of my talent in editing, sometimes a little bit in acting and a little bit
Did you find coming to England, was there a welcoming feeling in the college? Did you feel that you fitted in and everybody worked together, all in the same world, as it were?
So I left Ukraine as I was 19, and then I lived 10 years in Germany. So Germany was more or less my first country abroad, where I really had to adapt and all of this foreigner stories. So England was, it was a little bit different because it was the second country I decided to go, and it was also a different challenge because I started to study when I was 30. Now I'm 33, so it was a little bit more difficult to adapt because you're less, maybe a little bit less flexible.
I guess it's tricky because being the oldest, you're sort of more mature than some of the other students, and I think as you get that little bit older, you're a bit more determined and a little bit less about having fun, as other students tend to be, I think.
But, it's also felt more about something that I do for myself. It was a master degree, and also it was a little big luxury and sort of it was such a luxury just to be able to study there and having this 2 years just exploring my writing director skills. And
Okay, I'd like to talk to you about the film that you made at that time called Glorious Revolution, which I've watched. It's a very poignant film and particularly pertinent today. I sort of feel that in 2014 you were talking about the revolution in Ukraine, and now the enemy within, if you like, and now the enemy is without. I wondered if people knew in Ukraine what they know today, whether they would have gone ahead with that revolution, because it's kind of come full circle, hasn't it?
Мужики, Поможете гроб затащить? Пожалуйста.
I don't know how much you know about Ukrainian presidents and Yanukovych. We knew where Yanukovych would lead the country, that would go to Russia. And I think even if they had known that it all would lead to current events, they would do the same. Maybe even more with a bigger. Maybe it would become even be bigger than it was. And also, I think people just I think they would ever believed in this future, because I spoke to my friends, to my relatives in Ukraine just a few weeks before war. We all said, you have to leave the country. This is going to happen, and nobody believed us. Even, these people are not. These are wise people, our good friends, and they understand all the reasons we said to them, but nobody left. So yeah, so I think it wouldn't have changed their ideas, revolutionary ideas. No.
No. From everything I've seen on the news and the interviews I've seen, the Ukrainians are very steadfast, tenacious, and I just brave people. It's quite extraordinary, some of the stories that come out, and they are so determined. You know, it is wonderful to watch from that point of view, obviously. Can I just ask about the difficulties that you had in filming the Glorious Revolution, and how easy it was to film in Ukraine at that time?
If you saw my film, I can answer very shortly. Like the story of my mother and every difficulties that she faces is the story that every film production or any other production would face in Ukraine. So this is just the reality. The corruption penetrates every sector of Ukrainian society, and unfortunately, film industry is not an exclusion. So yeah, we had additional difficulties such as COVID regulations, and I filmed with a crew of my friends from the London Film School. We were an international crew coming to Ukraine with all the COVID regulations that are now less less a problem. But a year ago, that's, as you remember, PCR tests and all of that was a huge story, and red zones, yellow zones, and so it's all kept on changing all the time. And we, as producer, I also co-produced the films, we had to react accordingly. But I think we did a very important thing. We didn't give up. We didn't change our minds. We continued to work with the people we wanted to work, and I think it was a right decision not to give up on your fellow crewmates, and no matter what happens, and this should be always a priority, no matter what happens production wise. But my film is very it's criticism. You saw it also, the title. So maybe coming back to your question about the Ukrainians, and so the film speaks about my problem with the fact that the problem of Ukraine are the Ukrainians. And when you come to this conclusion, this is the point when you slowly start to leave the country. But at the same time, also the fact that I did these films tells probably also to you that I really worry about this place, and I hope that things will change. And and then now we all hope that Ukraine will win and that they get another chance. Yeah.
Yes, we all hope so too. We really do. Can I ask you what lies ahead for you now? In what's your next project you're involved in?
I've been writing since since I graduated another short film, a personal story about integration and displaced cultures. But one thing I realized watching everything that happens now is that in my personal drama competition, the personal story is a great idea to make, but when you see such things like nationalism or suddenly your neighbor country becomes an aggressive when you see war and such a big things important to many people, you understand. I realized that I want to make something that has more yeah not a political influence, but that would speak to a broader audience.
Has there ever been a project a dream project, something that you thought about when you started thinking about making films, and at some point in the future that's what you're aiming towards?
I started to think more about the message of my films and what do I want to leave people with after they see it. And I think the goal that I set to myself is to make the film, to make for the young audience, for the people in my age, to show them how this Nazi regime in Russia, how it grows and how it suddenly becomes what it became, and not to let it happen again.
It's hard to believe, with all the lessons we've learned over the last few hundred years, that something like this can possibly happen again. It's just beggars belief.
But something that I can't process in my head is that they say that they fight against it, but they are the ones who really.
Just finally, where would you like to see yourself in 20 years' time? Hopefully there's peace in your country and democracy is restored. But as a filmmaker, where would you see yourself?
Sure, I hope by then I get an opportunity to develop what people call a style, but some sort of filmmaking language that I still searching for, or still like touching it, but you're not really there. So I hope by then to develop this language and yes, to make films relevant to the audience, and hopefully, even if I make a film that will change or influence just a few individuals as I am, that would be already a win. Yeah. So I see myself making films, hopefully features. The next project is a short.
Well, I hope that we will see it at the festival at some point. And I'd really like that we stay in touch, and maybe we can pick up on this, in a couple of months' time, and see how things are with you and with what's happening in the country. But it has been fascinating talking to you, and thank you so much for this. And I hope we'll meet you again soon. Thank you, Masha.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for this interview. Bye
Bye.
bye.
We hope you enjoyed that interview with Masha Novikova. Thank you very much, Masha, for your time. The whole team at KIFF would like to show their love and support to those suffering in Ukraine. Thank you for watching this edition, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to seeing you next time.